I've watched a lot of Sabrina Ramonov's videos, probably all of them at this point. Some of the ones that are related to AI skills or building a business to 1 or 2 million, I've watched a number of times. And what I've noticed is that she says certain things again and again, across different videos, different formats, different topics, not because she's lazy, because she believes them that much, and because the best teachers do that. They provide a message numerous times and in numerous ways, so it actually sinks in with the student. So this episode goes through the 5 things Sabrina keeps saying that have actually changed the way I build my suite of YouTube channels, my fledgling business, and eventually escape my 9-to-5. For anyone new here, quick intro. I'm Aimee, 42, Sydney lawyer, 20 years of practice. No pink hair yet, though I maintain it's coming. I'm building a suite of YouTube channels using AI, trying to exit my 9-to-5 by February 2027, and documenting the whole thing in public. I have a channel called Renaissance because I believe AI will bring in a new renaissance for humanity. My voice isn't my real voice. Australian? Still looking. Okay, 5 things. Let's go. Thing 1. Lock into one thing and don't switch. Sabrina says this in every video. Not try not to switch. Not it's generally better to stay focused. She says you cannot switch. She's unusually firm about it for someone who otherwise keeps things pretty measured. And the reason she's firm is that she's watched the same failure pattern play out again and again. The trap is this. You lock into something, you work at it for a few weeks, you have a bad couple of weeks, and then you see someone on Instagram printing money doing something slightly different, and you think, maybe that's the better path. Maybe I picked the wrong one, and you jump. And then the cycle starts again. What Sabrina says, and what I've found to be true from my own building, is that most people who fail would have succeeded if they just stayed with it long enough. The idea wasn't wrong. The execution wasn't terrible. They just didn't give it enough time to compound. She commits to a year. That's her number. 1 year on one thing. Nothing else. Not 6 weeks, not 3 months. 1 year. And the reason she's specific about that is that the compounding that makes this work takes time to build momentum, and most people quit before the momentum is visible. For me, this has meant sitting with the YouTube suite even when individual channels felt slow. The suite is the thing I locked into. I've stayed with it. Some channels are faster than others, but by implementing Sabrina's mindset with this, I approach the analytics of some of these slower channels with the idea that I'm gathering valuable data rather than experiencing failure. Thing 2. Brand before product. Audience before offer. This is Sabrina's meta principle, and she returns to it constantly. She says that in 99.99% of cases, regardless of what you eventually want to build, a community, a course, a product, a consulting practice, an app, you should start by building your brand first, by getting attention first, by earning trust first. Everything else is built on top of that foundation. The reason most people don't do this is that it feels slow and indirect. You want the thing. You want the income. Building a brand feels like a detour. But what Sabrina shows across every path she maps out is that the people who tried to skip this step, who launched the product before they had the audience, who built the course before they had the trust, almost always had to go back and build the brand anyway. Just later, with less momentum, and after burning time and money on something that didn't land. The clearest version of this she gives is the sequence problem. Most people who fail at building an AI business, she says, fail not because the idea was wrong, but because they did things in the wrong order. They built first, they launched, nobody showed up, and they concluded the idea didn't work, when actually the idea would have worked if they'd built an audience who trusted them before they asked anyone to buy anything. For me, the sequence question is live. My channels are the brand building phase. The products, and I'm starting to build them now, come after. Not because I'm being patient, but because I understand now that the product without the audience is just a file sitting on Gumroad. Thing 3. Learn in public. Don't wait until you're ready. Waiting until you're ready is an excuse to never start. Sabrina is direct about this. She says the psychological tendency to wait, to feel like you need to have mastered the thing before you share anything about it, is not humility. It's avoidance. It's your brain protecting you from the possibility of being seen and not being good enough yet. And it works extremely well as an avoidance strategy because it feels like preparation. Her formula is simple. Day 1, learn something. Day 2, share what you learned. What worked, what didn't, what confused you, what surprised you. Not the polished version, the real version. Then, repeat. What she points to that I think is underappreciated is that learning in public is actually better content than expert content at the early stage. People don't want to watch someone who already knows everything. They want to watch someone figuring it out, because the figuring out process is relatable, and the problems you run into are the same problems they're about to run into. This channel is built on that principle. I'm not teaching Claude from the position of having mastered it. I'm teaching it from the position of using it daily in a real business and telling you what I'm actually finding. The wobble is the content. The learning curve is the content. And that makes it more useful, not less, to the person watching. Thing 4. Volume is the invisible multiplier. Sabrina posts 5 times a day. She makes this point in almost every video when she's talking about building an audience, and the framing is always the same. Volume isn't about reach, it's about data. Every post is a data point. If you post once a day, you get 1 data point. If you post 5 times a day, you get 5. And the feedback loop from 5 data points a day compounds in a way that 1 data point a day simply cannot. The insight is that most people think volume means sacrificing quality, and Sabrina flips that. She says volume is actually how you find quality, because you don't know what quality looks like for your specific audience until you've posted enough to see what they respond to. You can't reason your way to a viral format. You have to find it through iteration. The practical version of this for me looks like the channel suite rather than a single channel. Because I'm running multiple channels, I'm getting more data points per week than I would from one channel posting at a slower rate. Some of it's flopping. That's fine. The flopping is also data. The other thing she says about volume that I find useful is that cross-posting is a multiplier on top of a multiplier. One video posted to 3 platforms is 3 data points for the same amount of work. You don't need to create more, you need to distribute what you've already created more aggressively. Thing 5. Stick with it long enough to get lucky. That's not quite how Sabrina puts it, but it's what she means. She says the main thing that separates the people who succeed from the people who don't. It's that they stick to one path for consistently long enough to build momentum, long enough for the compounding to become visible, long enough to actually get lucky. She's honest that luck is in there. She doesn't pretend it's purely a system that produces guaranteed outcomes on a fixed timeline. What she says is that if you do the work consistently for long enough, you create the conditions for luck to land. You can't manufacture a video going viral, but you can be in the game long enough and producing enough volume that when one does, you're there to catch it. Her personal timeline commitment when she started was 5 years. She says this and acknowledges that nobody wants to hear it, but she had already decided she was in for 5 years before she saw any meaningful results, which meant that the bad months, and there were bad months, didn't trigger a strategic pivot. They were just bad months inside a 5-year commitment. I'm 2.5 months in. I'm very much not in a position to talk about 5 years of perspective, but I'm holding this one specifically because magpie syndrome is real for me, and I know it. The shiny object problem is my problem. New channel ideas arrive constantly. New formats, new angles, new pivots. And what Sabrina's framework gives me, specifically, is permission to say no to all of it. Not because those ideas are bad, but because I've committed to the thing I'm building, and the commitment only has value if it's real. The 5 things, in case you want them clean. Lock into one thing and don't switch. Brand before product, always. Learn in public. Don't wait until you're ready. Volume is data, not vanity. And stick with it long enough for the compounding to become visible. These aren't original ideas. Sabrina will tell you that herself. She credits Justin Welsh, she credits people who came before her. What she does is say them clearly, repeatedly, and in a way that makes them harder to ignore. I've been ignoring some of them. This video is partly me saying that out loud. If you want to go deeper on Sabrina's work, go watch her channel, Sabrina Ramonov. Of course, be careful with binging. I don't think you should watch it instead of building. She'd say the same. May I suggest a hard cap of a few hours studying and then you start? That's her advice. I'm passing it on. Subscribe if you want to follow my own build, learning and living AI. I'm Aimee. This is Renaissance. Now, go play.